In 1998, if you wanted to find something on the internet, you didn't Google it. You went to Yahoo. You typed your question into a purple and white box, and a team of actual human beings, editors, curators, real people, had already sorted the answer for you. Yahoo wasn't just a website. It was the front door of the entire digital world. And for a few extraordinary years, it seemed like that front door would belong to Yahoo forever. At its absolute peak, the company was worth $125 billion. That's more than the GDP of most countries on the planet at the time. It was the most visited destination on the early internet, a name that every household with a dial-up connection knew by heart. So how does a company worth that much, a company with that kind of cultural power, end up selling itself for less than $4.5 billion just 16 years later? That's not a slowdown. That's not a slump. That's a complete and total collapse. And it didn't happen by accident. The story of Yahoo begins, like so many great Silicon Valley stories, in a garage, or more precisely, in a trailer. In January 1994, two Stanford PhD students named Jerry Yang and David Philo started building a personal list of their favorite websites. They called it Jerry and David's Guide to the World Wide Web. It was not a sophisticated product. It was essentially a hand-curated bookmark list that they shared with friends, who shared it with their friends, who shared it with theirs. Within months, the traffic was so enormous that Stanford's servers couldn't handle it. The name was changed to Yahoo, officially backonymed as yet another hierarchical officious oracle, though Yang and Philo later admitted they just liked the word because it felt fun and irreverent. By 1995, they had incorporated. By 1996, they had gone public. And by the end of the decade, Yahoo was the undisputed king of the internet. To understand why Yahoo mattered so deeply to an entire generation, you have to remember what the early internet actually felt like. It wasn't the sleek, algorithm-driven machine it is today. It was chaotic, sprawling, overwhelming, and magnificent all at once. There were millions of websites with no clear way to find anything. Yahoo solved that problem the same way a good librarian solves it, by organizing, categorizing, and making sense of the chaos. For people who grew up with phone books and encyclopedias, Yahoo felt instantly familiar. It was the yellow pages of the digital age. You didn't search it so much as browse it. Finance, sports, news, entertainment, email, it was all right there, neatly arranged under one purple roof. The emotional connection people had to Yahoo was real. Checking your Yahoo mail in the morning felt like a ritual. The "you've got mail" culture was Yahoo's culture. It was personal in a way that technology almost never is. But while Yahoo was perfecting the art of organizing yesterday's internet, two other Stanford students were quietly building tomorrow's. In 1998, Larry Page and Sergey Brin had developed a search algorithm called PageRank that could crawl the web and rank results by relevance in ways that no human curator could ever match. They called their project Google. And in the earliest days, they actually tried to sell it. They approached Yahoo first. The asking price was $1 million. Yahoo passed. The executives didn't see the point in buying a pure search engine when they had their own search function already. That decision, made in a conference room with almost no fanfare, would come to define the entire history of the internet industry. Google went on to build itself into the most dominant advertising machine in human history, eventually becoming worth nearly $2 trillion. Yahoo could have owned it for $1 million. To be fair to Yahoo, the Google mistake of 1998 was at least partly understandable. At that moment in time, Yahoo was flying higher than anyone in the industry. They were growing faster than they could manage, hiring hundreds of employees a month, and their stock was soaring. Passing on a small startup felt like a minor decision buried in a mountain of major ones. But what happened 4 years later is harder to forgive. In 2002, Yahoo CEO Terry Semel approached Google again, this time to acquire it outright. Google had grown enormously by then, but it was still not the trillion-dollar behemoth it would become. The asking price was $1 billion. Semel hesitated. He deliberated. He negotiated. He eventually offered $3 billion. Google came back and said they needed $5 billion. And Semel, reportedly unwilling to bridge that $2 billion gap, walked away from the table. $2 billion. That's what the entire future of internet search cost Yahoo, $2 billion they refused to pay. Within the next decade, Google would capture the majority of the global search advertising market and become the most profitable company in the technology sector. Yahoo would spend the rest of its corporate life watching from the sidelines. The Google miss would have been enough to define Yahoo as a cautionary tale on its own, but the company wasn't done making historic mistakes. In 2006, Yahoo turned down its second chance at owning the future, this time in the form of a scrappy social network out of Cambridge, Massachusetts. Mark Zuckerberg's Facebook was only 2 years old, but it was already showing the explosive growth patterns that would eventually make it one of the most valuable companies in history. Yahoo offered $1 billion. Zuckerberg, then just 22 years old, reportedly agreed in principle. The board was ready. The paperwork was being prepared. And then Yahoo's stock price dropped sharply in a bad earnings quarter, and the company panicked. They came back to Zuckerberg with a revised offer of $850 million, $150 million less than the original figure. Zuckerberg tore up the contract. The deal was dead. The $150 million that Yahoo tried to save, less than 15% of the original offer, cost them the entire social media era of the internet. Facebook today is worth over $1 trillion. By the late 2000s, it was becoming clear that Yahoo had a deeper problem than any single missed acquisition could explain. The company had no idea what it was. This sounds like a strange thing to say about a company that everyone had heard of, but in the technology industry, identity is everything. Google knew exactly what it was: a search and advertising company. Everything it built served that mission. Apple knew what it was: a consumer hardware and software experience company. Everything it built served that mission. But Yahoo? Yahoo tried to be a media company and a technology company and a portal and a social network and a news outlet and an email provider and a video platform and a finance destination all at once. It was, in the words of multiple former executives, a company that could never finish a sentence that started with the words, "We are." The visual proof of this identity crisis was right there on the screen every time you visited the Yahoo homepage. While Google's front page was a single search bar on a white background, elegant in its absolute simplicity, Yahoo's homepage was a riot of headlines, ads, weather widgets, stock tickers, trending topics, and promotional banners. There was a logic to it in a 1998 kind of way, but by 2010 it looked like a company desperately trying to be everything to everyone and succeeding at nothing for anyone. Every time Yahoo hired a new CEO, and they went through 6 CEOs in 5 years between 2008 and 2013, there was a new strategy, a new direction, a new reorganization. The constant churn of leadership was both a symptom and a cause of the dysfunction. In 2008, Microsoft offered to rescue Yahoo with a $47 billion acquisition bid. Jerry Yang, who had returned to the CEO role in an attempt to steady the ship, rejected the offer, calling it too low. Shareholders were furious. Microsoft eventually walked away. Yang stepped down, and Yahoo continued its slow-motion decline toward irrelevance. The $47 billion Microsoft offer now stands as perhaps the most expensive rejection in corporate history, a number so enormous that it's almost impossible to comprehend that it was turned down by a company that would eventually sell for less than a tenth of that amount. The final chapter of Yahoo's story centers on Marissa Mayer, the former Google executive who was brought in as CEO in 2012 with enormous fanfare and genuine hope. Mayer was brilliant, ambitious, and deeply technical. She made meaningful improvements to Yahoo's mobile products and redesigned the mail interface. She bought the blogging platform Tumblr for $1.1 billion, betting that it could bring younger users back to Yahoo and revitalize the brand. The Tumblr acquisition became symbolic of everything that went wrong in Mayer's tenure. The platform had a passionate user base, but a near-impossible monetization problem. Advertisers were uncomfortable with the platform's content. The young users Tumblr attracted had no interest in Yahoo's other products. Within a few years, Yahoo wrote down $700 million of the Tumblr acquisition value. It had turned a $1 billion bet into a fraction of what was paid, and then came the data breaches. In 2013 and 2014, Hackers accessed Yahoo systems and stole data from all 3 billion of its user accounts, the largest data breach in the history of the internet at that time. The breaches weren't discovered or disclosed until 2016, by which point Yahoo was in the middle of negotiating its sale to the telecommunications giant Verizon. The revelation cost Yahoo $350 million in the sale price and permanently shattered whatever trust remained with its user base. The final sale closed in 2017 for $4.48 billion. A company once worth $125 billion sold for less than 4% of its peak value. What makes the Yahoo story so compelling and so painful is that it wasn't a company destroyed by fraud or scandal or a single catastrophic product failure. Yahoo was destroyed by hesitation, by indecision, and by a fundamental inability to commit to a vision of the future. Every time the future presented itself at Yahoo's door, in the form of a young Larry Page, or a 22-year-old Mark Zuckerberg, or a $47 billion check from Microsoft, Yahoo found a reason to say no or not enough or not right now. In the technology industry, not right now is almost always the same as never. The lesson of Yahoo isn't just about missed acquisitions or bad management, though there was plenty of both. It's about the cost of institutional timidity in an industry that rewards the bold. The companies that inherited the internet, Google, Facebook, Amazon, Apple, all made enormous bets at moments when the outcome was deeply uncertain. They committed to a future they couldn't fully see and built toward it with everything they had. Yahoo, blessed with more resources and more opportunity than almost any company of its era, consistently chose the comfortable path over the courageous one. It chose to react rather than to lead, to defend rather than to invent, to preserve what it had rather than risk it for something greater. Today, what remains of Yahoo exists under the name Yahoo Inc., primarily as a financial holding and a collection of legacy media properties. The email service still has hundreds of millions of users who haven't gotten around to switching. The finance section is still genuinely useful. But as a force in the technology industry, as an innovator, as a destination, as a cultural touchstone, Yahoo is gone. The purple logo still exists in some corners of the internet, a ghost haunting the corridors of a house it used to own. Do you still have a Yahoo email address? Millions of people do, and there's something quietly poignant about that. For a lot of us, that address was our first email. It was the address we gave to friends at the turn of the millennium, the account we checked on shared family computers, the inbox that felt like a portal to a brand new world. Yahoo gave an entire generation their first experience of the digital age. That matters. That counts for something. But in business, sentiment doesn't pay the bills. And in the technology industry, the moment you stop building the future, someone else will build it without you. Yahoo had every advantage. They had the users, the talent, the money, and the moment. They just didn't have the conviction to use it. And that, more than anything else, is the story of the $50 billion decline.